give me a hug. Good afternoon. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. We're in a church. I mean, this echoey type of thing. I'm Kit Cramer, president of the Asheville Chamber. I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here, for being flexible. I mean, it just feels like that's the watchword for everything in our lives these days, is being flexible. We had originally scheduled to have an event at the beginning of December, and instead we're doing this. I can't tell you how much we appreciate our sponsors being flexible as well. You'll see some of the sponsors that are up on this board, and before we get much further into things, I want to invite Graham Fields, who is with Advent Health, to make a few remarks. Graham, please join me in a round of applause for Advent Health.
Well, Kit, I want to say thank you for all of your efforts and all the chambers here to put this together. This is a very special event, and Advent Health is absolutely honored to be a sponsor. And you know what, to be honest, for me, as a sixth-generation Buncombe County native, whose mom taught at Barnardsville. I grew up in Rims Creek. My first job was at Camp Rockmont up the road. This is very personal. It's very real. And so as we've served this area as Advent Health since 1910, mainly in Henderson and Buncombe County. And I think as we've had the opportunity and the privilege to grow with a new hospital, we're serving our friends in Yancey. And Yancey's here, Madison County, Graham County, and others. And so when I think about what has affected all of us, it is very real, it's emotional. I've had the opportunity to meet with so many of you, and my message is simple. We are so proud of this community, we're so proud of our leaders, and this is the comeback. This is that opportunity to really make a statement about who we are and where we are. And so I want to say thank you on behalf of Advent Health, and I appreciate everybody's leadership, and I'm proud of the community and of my neighbors. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm just going to take that off of there. I also want to thank Sandstone Rehabilitation. They're another one of our sponsors. This event conflicts with something major that company has going today. So we don't have a representative from Sandstone here, but we so appreciate their support. We appreciate the support of Realty One. Monica, did I see you in here? There she is. Thank you so much for your support. Pepsi is another supporter of ours that we greatly appreciate, that has helped sponsor this event and other things that we do at the Chamber. ERC Broadband and Fast Signs also are constant supporters of ours. So we appreciate the support. Please join me in one last applause for all of our sponsors. This facility that we're in that is acting, this was the United Methodist Church of Swannanoa for I don't know how long. It's a beautiful facility. We are here today because Quility Symmetry Properties and the Beacon Foundation, which are operating this as a community center for all kinds of activities for Swannanoa right now. Meredith, thank you so much. She was one of my first calls when we were thinking about where could we go so that people could viscerally see what those who are still in the midst of recovery are experiencing. And this was the first place that I thought of calling and seeing if we could come here. I happen to live in Swannanoa. I have not lived here that long. I'm one of the lucky ones that moved in right before the storm. But I really think I'm here for a reason, to be a witness to what's going on in this community and so many others throughout Western North Carolina. Not only, and by the way, the Quility staff, Katie, Colby, everybody has been wonderful to work with. We really appreciate their support. Please give them a round of applause. I've had the honor of working for the Asheville Chamber for 14 years and immediately reached out to my colleagues in other chambers around this region to get to know them, if nothing else, to have other people to gripe with about how hard it is to affect change. And I am so proud of the work that we have done together. There's been a core committee. While we have a number of representatives that you will meet later today from other chambers from throughout the region, we've had a core committee that has been working on this. The leader of the Boone area chamber is David Jackson. He's serving as our facilitator today. We've got the Hendersonville chamber. Bob Williford, where are you? In the front. Right next to him is Kim Effler with the McDowell chamber. And I also happen to have a fabulous staff at the Asheville Chamber. I especially want to point out Casey, who is how long have you been on the job, Casey? Since August. She got lucky too, right before, to begin to work with us right before we have a hurricane hit the mountains. And she has been a great organizer for this event. So I appreciate all of my colleagues, my chamber colleagues, whether they work for the Asheville Chamber or not. Please join me in thanking them as well. Today, we're hijacking David Jackson's podcast. He does a podcast called Mind Your Business for the Boone Area Chamber. And Rigid AV is with us today to help communicate. We are live streaming this event, but we are also going to have a recording of it because not everybody can be here. I think SIBO had a huge meeting this morning. The River Arts District had a huge meeting this morning. I don't know how many other people have had huge meetings. We've even got legislators who are in meetings right now in Raleigh and are not here. Plus, we happen to choose the Friday before we change presidents. So it's a busy time for everyone. I so appreciate that you've made the time to be with us today, and we appreciate the use of this podcast to help communicate what's going on in the minds of business people as they continue to think about how they're going to approach their comeback, which is a term that we've been using through the Tourism Development Authority here. We've talked about Asheville's comeback, the Western North Carolina comeback. And we're all in the midst of it. We're going to tell a regional story today. You're going to hear from some of our local business people who are going to share what's on their minds, not so much their storm story, but where they are now. Because I think we know we've all viscerally lived a whole lot of this. But we need to be talking about what decisions are being made now, what's on their minds, and how we're going to move forward. Before we launch into those stories, we want to thank our governmental units for their support and their investment in Western North Carolina. I have had a little bit of anxiety about us appearing to be ungrateful because here we were hammering the message about funding at the federal level and at the state level. And yes, we have had some funding come through, and so I don't want to appear ungrateful. This is just the beginning. Our needs are so extensive. And I think for those of you who were able to drive through Swannanoa today, and I encourage you to drive around a little bit more and take a look, there are very big issues. I mean, there are sections of this community. When you drive past it every day, you can see the changes and the small improvements. It will be a red letter day when the truck that is turned on its side, that has been decorated by the Swannanoa residents, the Beacon Village residents for Christmas, when that truck is gone, it's going to be a red letter day around here. It's going to be another red letter day when I don't have to drive into Black Mountain to drive back to get to my neighborhood in Swannanoa, because I can cross on the other side of Whitson Avenue, can cross the Swannanoa River Bridge. That bridge is, my daughter and her boyfriend walked across that bridge on about 1.5 feet of concrete, with backpacks with water and food in them, carrying my grand dog across that river. And I have to say the boyfriend was not very happy about it. To come and get me and my husband out of our house and back into, to drive us to Charlotte so that we could communicate and I could begin to do my job. So it's overwhelming to think about. We had one of our panelists, who shall remain unnamed, had asked for a box of tissues on the table. Did we get you those tissues? Good, all right. Because I don't know about y'all, but you get a good windstorm going, and I get some PTSD going from what we've all experienced here. For those of you, our federal officials are not able to be here today. We do have representatives from their offices, and I really appreciate them being here because, frankly, a whole lot of the work gets done there. I don't know how many of you heard Tom Tillis on the floor of the Senate in the first vote that was attempted that did not pass. I felt like he was channeling me. And I was so proud of the way he represented us in terms of saying what the needs were of the people of Western North Carolina. Chuck Edwards, Ted Budd, and many of the people that they've brought with us that have been in leadership at the federal level. I want to thank them for doing that, for bringing them here to Swannanoa, but to other areas of Western North Carolina as well, so that they can witness what has happened here. Because it's not like your average hurricane. I'm from Florida, and we've experienced a lot of hurricanes. And what we've experienced here is a bit different, especially when you consider that this was ground zero for Asheville losing its water system with the collective power of water and detritus. And it's a freaking miracle that we've got that water system back. Ben Woody, where are you? Let's give Ben Woody, he's in the very back. There are so many miraculous things that have happened through hard work and the coordination of our elected officials. And I'm very grateful. I also want to thank Robin Ramsey, who is, my understanding, I'm going to assume that these people are here because I've been told they're here. Robin Ramsey from Senator Tillis's office, Bronwyn Lance, and Chris Burns from Congressman Edwards' office. Thank you so much for being with us, and please continue to carry the torch for Western North Carolina. From our state level leadership, both elected leaders and staff, Representative Dudley Green, who is the co-chair of the Select Committee on the Hurricane Helene Recovery for the state, was to be with us. I don't know how he heard himself, but he heard himself. So he is with us virtually today, and we appreciate his participation. We also have Senator Julie Mayfield. Julie, raise your hand. Representative Eric Egger, Representative Lindsay Prather. We also have Holly Jones. I haven't seen in an age. Hey, Holly. Who is with North Carolina's, NC GROW, the Governor's Office for Western North Carolina Recovery, correct? Sort of.
I'm actually the director of the Governor's Western Office, but I work closely with GROW NC.
Great. Well, thank you for being here today. And we're happy that you're in that role. Mary Moorfield from the North Carolina General Assembly House Oversight and Reform Committee. And is she here? Thank you so much for joining us and for making the trip. We greatly appreciate that. Have I missed anybody from the state or federal levels?
We got Tommy Lauder.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm blaming everybody else. I'm just doing what I'm told here. But thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it greatly. The local leadership level, both elected leaders and staff, because we know how critically important the staff is as well as the elected leaders, they have worked in partnership with us in the business community, but also with all of our strategic partners that represent various industries or represent various geographic areas. Most importantly, we're now going to be working hand in hand with the business community to provide a supportive environment for our comeback. And so we have a variety of messages for our friends, our local friends today. And here's who we have with us today. Amanda Edwards, Chair of the Buncombe County Commission. Al Whitesides. Drew Ball. Terry Wells. We also have Assistant County Manager Tim Love. And from the Asheville City Council, Bo Hess. Bo in the back. And we've already introduced Ben Woody, our Assistant City Manager. Jennifer, where are you? Jennifer Horton. Thank you so much for being with us, Jennifer. Again, not my fault. I'm just telling you. I also want to, did I miss anybody else from a local level?
Can we clap for the state?
Yes.
We just didn't get to do that.
Yes, I'm sorry. Let's clap for the state. I was having a conversation with our finance officer the other day, and the North Carolina Chamber was talking about putting up a healthcare program for small business, which is an answer to prayer, frankly, for so many chamber execs from across the state. They're holding a meeting, and it's going to be in Raleigh. And for those of us in the West who travel to Raleigh for those types of meetings, and it ends up being a 2-day thing, we are very grateful for those of you at the state level who make the trip here and who have to burn up that road between here and Raleigh on a regular basis. So thank you for that. I also want to thank the philanthropic community as well. There have been so many fundraising initiatives by so many different individuals. They are all important. I am inevitably going to miss any number of them, so I'm not going to even try. But I want to say, early on, when I got to Charlotte and was talking about the need, we as chamber execs knew we needed grants, not just loans for business. And we hammered that message repeatedly. And I'm so grateful that the philanthropic community has responded to that need. I hope we can find ways for government to respond more to that need as well. But I was telling someone earlier today that we raised over $1 million just through the chamber and through businesses and in Charlotte, as well as locally through individuals who wrote checks. $1 million feels like a proverbial drop in the bucket, comparatively speaking. But $1 million here, $1 million there, several million concerts that create wonderful amounts of money and support, and as well as goodwill for our community. I just am really grateful for all of that. I'm grateful for Golden Leaf. Dan Garlock was talking about being with us. I don't know if he was able to never mind, I'm seeing him right there in front of me. Dan, thank you so much for making the trip and for being so responsive to the message. Golden Leaf has been a huge supporter of Western North Carolina, as the Dogwood Health Trust has been, not just for this area, but for the entire region. We have professional associations also that all of us are affiliated with who have stepped up, and I'm very grateful to them for being listening ears and strategic partners in terms of advocacy, as well as helping identify the needs we have and spreading that word. And our strategic partners in tourism, the arts, and other industry sectors who have raised money and support for businesses large and small. We appreciate all of them. So I'm hesitant to talk about funding, as I mentioned earlier, but we've watched the process, and I've learned that we are not unique. And I've talked with my colleagues across the country who have experienced disaster. We are not unique. And in terms of having to work a process, it's a sausage-making process. It can get ugly at times. And we've also seen, I don't know about y'all, I have mixed emotions when I see the memes about not forgetting Western North Carolina in the midst of the tragedy that is unfolding in California right now. I mean, I know that flooding is bad, fire, I just can't begin to envision. And we're one country that needs to support one another when times are rough. So part of me doesn't want to see those memes because I don't want to think that we're going to forget any aspect of our country. But today, what we want to do is provide you with stories that will help propel the next level of investment and the next level of service that our businesses need. Because plenty of business people have had to focus on their personal lives first, as they justifiably should. But there are still so many key decision points, so much influence that our elected officials can have on how the comeback will occur for these businesses. So I am thankful we have David Jackson, and David, I'm going to ask you to take it away.
Excellent. Kit Cramer. We all would not be here without the leadership of Kit and her team to make this happen and to give us the opportunity to share with you today. So my name is David Jackson. I'm the president and CEO of the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce, and you all are in a very special place today because you're at the very first live broadcast of the Mind Your Business podcast. All right, we've never gone live like this before, so you're in a unique audience. You're the first ever, and hopefully won't be the last. But we appreciate your audience. We are in a special place. This is a spot in Western North Carolina that I feel like all of us feel like we either know, we certainly travel through. We came down from Boone today. So many of the places that we pass, like Swannanoa, we had to go a completely different way. 221 is still not available for us to come down through Marion and Old Fort. Some of the places that we just set the calendar by, getting a chance to see during seasonal change and things along those lines. Swannanoa is right there at the top of the list. It's the gateway into Asheville. It's a place that many of us travel, and to see the hurt still. All this time after what we experienced with Helene is devastating. It's also become our reality. Kit was mentioning how difficult it is to schedule sometimes. We understand that all of you made a sacrifice to be a part of this audience today and to hear these stories. We also know that those of us in this room know that this response and recovery has become a permanent part of our schedule until we see these needs addressed. So part of what we want to do today is inform how that schedule unfolds. So we have got two different panelists that we're going to bring to your attention today and have join us. And we'll be able to set those on both a regional level, some names you know, and some businesses you've certainly experienced in a variety of our communities, but then right down to the local Main Street level, like I was talking about a moment ago with places like Old Fort and Hendersonville and Blowing Rock and Boone, those places that are such magnets for our entire region. And we know that many of our visitors might start on one part of the Blue Ridge Parkway and make their way down here or vice versa. Right now, that's not possible. And these folks that we'll talk to today understand not only the economic ramifications for that, but also the logistics and all of the things that we might not have thought about yet that play into these issues. So I appreciate your time. Our first panel here is one of a regional nature, so I'll introduce these folks and then we'll have each of them go through the initial part of their story. So we're pleased to have Lisa Cooper, who is the president and CEO of Mast General Store. She was in the Boone Caravan here today. Meredith Ellison, the founder and chief well-being officer for Quility. Thank you again for the use of this beautiful facility. And Sandy Garcia Boyer, the executive director of the North Carolina Youth Camp Association, with us today as well. So a variety of business interests because we know that this storm impacted all of us in some unique ways. So our panelists are going to start by telling us a little bit about their business, where geographically you're located, but a little bit about the experience you have now first. And Lisa, we'll start with you.
Okay, so real quickly, we're going to be celebrating 45 years of reopening the original Mast store in Valley Crucis. So where we're sitting today is we have 11 stores in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. And this affected half of our markets. Devastating sales loss and trying to get normalcy back in our employees' lives. You can see the pictures of our annex going underwater and the little fishing hut that kind of washed up into our land. So it was a solid 2+ week recovery. You can see how tall the storm was and what it caused for us. We were blessed to be able to open that back up in 2 weeks and get going, but it was more opening it up for the employees because there weren't any customers.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Meredith.
Hi. I first just want to start with deep gratitude for you all to be here and to show up. You know, I think 90% of solving any problem is just showing up. So thank you for that. I'm Meredith Ellison, one of the co-founders at Symmetry and Quility. Our headquarters is down the street. You passed it, just coming in. Symmetry is our life insurance distribution company. We have about 8,000 agents around the nation through that business. And Quility is our insurtech company where we have 200 employees that serve the 8,000. So those 200 are responsible for creating and making sure they do their job so those 8,000 people can do their job, right? Before I go into that, I just want to give some stats just for a minute about Swannanoa, about where you sit. The land that you probably parked on across the street that's pretty muddy, in about 1940, was a huge manufacturing plant that was moved down from the northeast here. In 1940, it moved down, and at its heyday, it employed around, I think, 2,200 people. In 1950, the population of Swannanoa was 9,500 people. In 1960, the population of Swannanoa was 10,000 people. In 1970, the population of Swannanoa was 12,700 people. In 1990, the business finally closed its door for good, and in about mid-1990s, the population of Swannanoa was 3,500 people. 2020, it was back up to 5,500 people. So the value that I know you all know is that business is the heartbeat of a community. It is what makes it come and what makes people come and go. So I just wanted to kind of put that into context for why we're here today and the power of business. I think the reason the business in the community has gone up by 2,000 in the last 5 years is because of small businesses and what they bring to a community. 2018, we had 60 employees working down the street. We were had every employee come into the office. It was an amazing community. We had lunches together at a restaurant we go walk around the street. We get a cup of coffee. We had time, and our community was our work. 2020, the pandemic hit, right? We got everyone home. We got everyone safe. Everyone is able to work. And we does not wash over us that we were able to move our business to a completely virtual model. That is a gift that we will forever be grateful for. We moved 8,000 agents that would go door to door and go into people's homes and sell life insurance in 3 weeks. We turned to a virtual model. It was amazing. But what we learned after the pandemic is people are lonely. Working from home is not the ideal situation every day. Loneliness has never been at its highest. Isolation's never been at its highest. And what we know is we want to create an environment that for 70 of our employees that are still local, we can create a hybrid model. We plan to rebuild here in Swannanoa. We hope to rebuild here in Swannanoa. But even after we rebuild, I can't ask my employees to come into this office for the way it looks in this town. It is hard. It is hard to wake up in the morning and get yourself excited and feel confident and feel hope and inspiration to go serve our businesses and to come in and see the devastation around us. So I ask a lot of my employees actually don't come in. I need you to stay home because I need you more than anything. What we know about businesses and about our lives is energy management matters. Taking care and protecting our energy matters. And so I can't have them come in, even if they remodel right now, because they need restaurants to go to. They need to be able to drop their car off on the way in because they need their inspection done and they need their oil changed. our vet that was right next to us. We need our animals taken care of, right? I'll tell this one last story, and it's so minimal, but it felt so profound this morning. As we were on a call yesterday, and our good buddy, our national sales director, Todd Spivey, was saying, I've decided I'm just going to shave my head. And we're like, Spivey, there's no need for that. He's like, I am. And we laughed and all of that, and then I got up this morning, and it dawned on me. Todd Spivey came into the office every single day. And every single day, Todd Spivey loved to go down to the local gas station and get himself a handful of candy. He fills his jars up so we can come eat it. He got a Diet Coke. He'd love to go get a sub from our favorite sub sandwich down the street. And every 2 weeks, he'd go across the street and get his hair cut. He's not doing that anymore because our country, our modern day world, is built on what we value the highest as comfort and convenience. And if it is not comfortable, we don't feel good. If it's not convenient, we find somewhere else to find it. So when I asked the story of my vet down the road, who is able to get moved 20 minutes down the road, his business is down 50% because the people that went to him for the vet don't have the convenience and the time to go 20 minutes to drop their vet off. He wants to be back here. He needs to be back here, and that's what we need right now. I need Zellas down the street to be able to work with our county and cities to get water and sewer. They're not asking for money, but they need the water pressure to be able to open a restaurant so that my employees can come in and go get lunch that they love. So that's what we need. That's what our business needs.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Yeah. Sandy?
Thank you so much for sharing. Goodness. I'm Sandy Boyer. I actually represent the policy interests for all the summer camps in the state of North Carolina. In Western North Carolina, it is a very large traditional camp area, probably the most saturated camp area in the entire country. There are 200 overnight camps, and these are the camps that you see, in the movies, where your kids go overnight, they do all the swimming, the fishing, they learn, they have their first boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be. Really amazing experiences for kids. 70% of those camps actually reside here in Western North Carolina. Upon some further research, and I did some number crunching last night, that's about $416 million in economic impact to this area. Not a single camp in this area was untouched by the hurricane. Everybody had some impacts, or certainly some more than others, but we saw roads that were wiped out. We saw thousands of trees down on property. We saw camp structures that had been there for hundreds of years, washed away. It has been a truly harrowing experience to see the devastation that's happened in these camp areas. These are the areas also that employ teachers in the summer. They give high school students their very first job right out of school. They hire college kids to come back to the area who oftentimes will make this area home when they're done with their college career. And so we know that when we can't get them back here, and if we can't provide those services for camps, that we're losing a whole generation of people that love and take care of West North Carolina. The thing I would say is that camps work as an organism with their communities. So you'll go into a camp community, and camp can't run efficiently if there aren't restaurants, if there aren't hotels or accommodations, and if there's not local business to bring that uniqueness to the area. I can't tell you how many times I've traveled to Washington, to other areas where I say something about camp. I'll say, oh, I moved to Western North Carolina because of camp. Or I have been coming to camp for the last 10 years, and my sons and daughters will come to camp. It is definitely something that is unique to the area, and we hope that we can continue it. Certainly after COVID, this is a time that has just been a struggle. We're all just kind of coming out from those expenses. And so now we are just trying to figure out what the next steps are going to be for us.
Well, thank you all for sharing that introduction. And I think they did a great job of articulating just the nuance of all of this. It's not just a black and white issue. It's not a business is closed, a business is open. It's not a community is closed or open. It's about all of the little details that matter when one disruption occurs in a community, let alone an entire region is disrupted. So hopefully that will be something that resonates throughout the course of our conversation here today, that there is an interconnectedness amongst this entire region that has been pushed to the test here in these last several months. Because of the audience that we have here, and we're fortunate to have a number of business leaders, influencers, certainly policy makers and policy influencers, if there was something that each of you wanted to impart, I said in a room full of policymakers, what would you like most to be known about your current situation as we sit here today, your current reality of January 2025? Meredith, we'll start with you on that one. What would you like these folks in the audience to know most about where you are?
That's a great question. I think I kind of hit on it, and again, we are grateful for the progress that's been made, but we need more progress and the visual healing to begin. So many people have said, I try to come into the office and it just re-inflames my trauma. I go right back to the day of the storm. And it just keeps that cycle going. But what can we do to get these local businesses going again, to get restaurants going again, to get the town cleaned up so that people want to build back here, so they want to come here and reinvest into this area? I think that's what we need.
Lisa, how about you?
I feel like Western North Carolina is known for its outdoor recreation, period, and our rivers and streams need a lot of help. I drive over power lines every day going to work. We need a cleanup. We need to be ready, set, go to welcome the tourists back to our area because we need them. That would be my top.
Sandy, I would imagine you appreciate the support on that, but I would imagine it's similar.
Absolutely. I think I alluded to that earlier, that, we are an organism within an entire community, and if they don't work, we don't work. One of the things I'd probably like to touch on is that essentially the majority of the camps are small businesses, and those are the privately owned summer camps. And then the rest of them are nonprofit camps. They have a very short season to be able to make their income. And because of that, any kind of impact can throw it completely off. Right now, we're just, looking forward to having a summer. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know if we're going to be able to have, things in place because contractors and resources aren't available, as readily available as we need them to be. And so really, everything is kind of in chain reaction right now. But we all need some help somewhere.
Thank you for that. And I think that's something that we, I know, in the Boone area have grown more concerned about by the day as we get closer to springtime, although it doesn't feel like it up there by any stretch. As we get closer to springtime, we think about river viability. We think about the commercial viability of those areas for fly fishermen and the river guides and the rafting guides, that right now, that's not an option. We had 3.5 inches of rain just a couple of weeks ago up in our area, behaved like 6.5. And I'm sure that the exact same thing happened here too. So making sure that some of those magnets for other parts of our tourism economy are available is of utmost importance throughout the region. And it's with that I want to kind of turn us back to a storyline that we heard a lot during the month of October was, oh, the October loss. This is an area that performs in October. We perform for the state in October, right? But it wasn't just October. This was November. This has been the holidays. Sandy, I know that you've got a seasonal business, but there's still impact, I'm sure, that lasted throughout just the immediacy of the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. The camp season during that time of the year is typically recruitment. So they're looking for, students to come and take employment opportunities in the area. And they're also out recruiting campers. Obviously, that came to a complete halt. Some of our camp owners and directors were actually out of the state, and they actually saw on TV what was happening to their camp and didn't have a chance to get back for quite some time, so they couldn't address anything. I think that we are, while we didn't see maybe the economic impacts immediately, we will see them coming in the next summer or so, because we don't know if those buildings are going to be rebuilt. We don't know if our roads are going to be intact. And we certainly don't know if our families and children are going to be able to come to the area and feel comfortable coming to the area. It's very traumatic even for the kids who live here. people come to Western North Carolina because of the uniqueness, the beauty, the outdoors. It's just a remarkable and special place. And so when they come to camp, it's a respite from where they're coming from. All the surrounding states, they come internationally as well. This is just the most beautiful place in the world. We know that, and they know that, and that is why they come to us. And we want to make sure that they have that experience so that they don't turn around and decide, okay, Western North Carolina is not open for business because they're not quite there. We know that we are strong and that we can proceed forward. We just need the extra help to make that happen.
Meredith, you touched on some of the operational issues that you've had to work through, but how does that hit the bottom line when you think about the shifting that you've had to do with your business and just reinventing it again so quickly?
Yeah, I was just thinking this morning about, the first 3 or 4 weeks, you run off just pure adrenaline. It's just things were happening. People were amazing. We were coming together. Our staff, half the staff that wasn't here and our more national stepped up so they could help take up so our staff could maybe be in their communities and give back to the communities they wait to or just take care of themselves. But now we feel the toll. Now people are so tired. We're so tired, and it's supposed to be business as usual. Because we got to keep the doors open, we got to keep growing, we got to keep doing. But these are human beings that have just experienced a huge natural disaster and the adrenaline has run out. And so how do we take care of each other in that? And I do think it's through community. I do think it's through healing. I think it's bringing people back together and doing that. But that's where we are. And that's where our staff is feeling it the most, I believe.
One of the first phone calls that we make when there's anything that goes on is to Lisa at Mast store to find out, how did that play? How did that play on Main Street in the variety of communities that are here? So you had the immediacy, but you also had many communities to sample from. How did that different market to market?
Asheville was our #1 store. It's not anymore. Greenville's going to take that claim this year. Asheville was down 80% in business for October. #1 door, 14% of our sales come to us in October. So this will probably be the first year that we probably take a loss. That's going to be hard to do. We're out there trying to help our friends and neighbors, but I know what they're going through and what markets they are in by what we're going through in the markets that we're in. So definitely focusing on the mental health and that we're tired. We're very tired, but we're together. My people are back and they're supporting each other. I think they decorated for Christmas like November 1st in the office. They were so ready for Christmas and get the spirit going and alive and well. And that's what, I appreciate from David and the Chamber being a foundation to help our small businesses, because we were talking about the ones that we lost along the way. Over yonder, a fantastic restaurant in Valley Cruces said, I can't survive off of the numbers that I'm living on, so doors are shutting on Sunday. That's the only real place to get food consistently in the valley right now. So it is working on the sales loss that people had, and can they make up for it, or can it be supplemented so that with grants so that they can get through? As we mentioned earlier, a loan at 0 interest is still a loan that you have to pay back after suffering to get through 2020 and paying those loans back. So I think that's it's going to be tough to get everybody to the other side of this. Tourism won't come back until really Memorial Day. So we've got a lot of hard months to carry through to help our friends and neighbors.
One of the things that all of you have touched on in your own unique way is that here are these businesses that are like many of us going through this immediate shift. One day, we just did life differently. And with that, these are among some of the first in their individual communities that found a way through all of this difficulty, through everything that we see out here today, to find a way to help the community. And it was not necessarily just about the broad community, right? You brought a sense of normalcy to your staff by opening again. Can you kind of talk about, from a leadership perspective, how mentally challenging that was for you to balance the dollars and cents, but also know that, hey, you needed to get those doors open because your people needed that?
It was my first priority is how I can get the doors back open so my people can come to work and make sure that they're comforted in knowing they have a paycheck. And whether we're selling enough to pay for the paycheck wasn't a priority for me. It was getting my people back to some semblance of normalcy. So there's stories that people have of the bonding that happened and how we're better working together after all this. But we had some very, very challenging days and moments. And as I said, Christmas November 1st was something to grab a hold of. But I remember walking through the dark halls of my office, and we have 100 people out in the middle of Valley Cruces that support all of the stores and operations. And our power was off. The building was okay, so I was grateful for that. So we worked hard to get power back to Valley. I'm like, I've got 100 people out of work right now that I need to get back and going. So we did that, but I have to tell you a quick little story. On Monday after the hurricane, I'm in there with my assistant, and we're walking through and checking things out, and I'm looking at 4 full refrigerators full of food, and I'm like, we got to take one for the team. We cleaned them out so that they didn't have to come back to that mess. And one of the things that's on my job titles is, and other duties as necessary. I took those Rubbermaids home and I washed them and took them back to the office so I wouldn't throw anything away. But we got people back Thursday, Friday, a week after the storm. And to me, that was where we needed to be to heal with each other after the hurricane.
We've got some young college-age students that are represented by some parents in the room. Can you come behind them too? Help them real quick. Thank you. Meredith, how about you? What did opening your doors again bring to your staff, and how did you manage through that?
I think the first highest priority is making sure everybody was okay. And living in a world where we couldn't connect with everyone, that was really hard. But once we figured that out, our first priority was to help those that wanted to get out of Asheville for a minute to relocate temporarily in Charlotte and around the area, and to help try to support them through housing and internet of that nature. And then it goes to the amazing staff we have, is they self-organized, and they able to figure out who needed to be on the ground in the community and who could help support extra to keep the business going. And they did that. There's some amazing people in the room right now. Like, I can't even look at Maitland, because she was so heavily and could make things happen in search and rescue. Who knew the skill set from that woman over there? And her team was like, you stay on the ground. We got you. We'll keep this going, right? And so that's what was amazing, and they're still going on to this day, but it's really our amazing staff that takes care of each other and supports each other to keep the business going. Again, the 200 people that support the 8,000. And you see that ripple, and that 8,000 is that have people that are in their communities so they can keep serving their communities, right? It's an amazing team.
Sandy, I'm going to ask you a little different version of this question, and that your association helped so many people that saw the very nature of what they do change because of the physical beauty and the topography that those areas bring. How did you help those folks begin to understand what comes next?
What I can actually say is that the camp industry, they're just remarkable people. They knew that, they had so much damage and that nothing could be quite done. And so they were able to put aside the damage that they had and figured out how to help their community. So I saw a lot of camps open up their campuses to workers so that we'd be able to house workers in the area, because all the accommodations were out as well. And they know how to live off the land. So, everyone kind of roughed it for a while at the camp. There were several that did that. A lot of camps actually turned around and started to, feed their community, because they are not strangers to, housing large people for large dinners and lunches. And so they started to do that as well. I think what really amazed me most about the industry itself is that I got a call maybe 2 or 3 days after the hurricane. The camp industry feels more than anything that, yes, they are a business, but they are part of an education process for children. And the first question to me was, so what's going to happen to all the school-age children? Immediately, they started to contact nonprofit organizations that brought in trauma-informed camp directors to come in and find pop-up camps, so that families that had to have their kids go back to school, or families that had to go back to work, would have a place for their children to go. I don't know that any of us ever realized what kind of trauma these children, if you're a parent, you understand. Our kids went through COVID, and then they had maybe a year of a little bit of normalcy, and then a national disaster hit right on the tail end of it. They were in upheaval, and so the camp industry really tried to work towards that, tried to bring people together, help community, work with kids, and that's really how we all organize with one another. And lots of resources from here go to here, and just like in any community, one part was harder than the other. And so it was getting those resources, making sure those children were taken care of, is how we've kind of coped through everything at this point.
One more question for this panel before we get some closing thoughts from them. We've got, again, policymakers and influencers in the room here, and as we talk about what funding looks like, the funding that we're so grateful for to this point has got a dollar mark to it. Not all of it's been allocated yet, and we know that through Kit Cramer, we're going to get more funding through a lot of effort by a number of organizations like ours spread throughout the state and for that matter throughout the country as we begin to prioritize what comes next and what's needed most. Let me ask that question. What do you need most right now? Is it about direct business funding? Could it be business counseling? Could it be some other thing that money may fuel, but it isn't necessarily a direct allocation to business X on the dotted line? Meredith, I'll start with you on that one.
Yes. No.
You heard it from Meredith. Yeah.
I mean, we need, there's a lot of need, but what I don't hear in Swannanoa is people aren't looking for handouts, right? They want to help themselves. I think we just have to understand that small business owners know how to do what they do, right? They know how to make an amazing cup of coffee. They know how to cut your hair. They know how to change your oil. They know how to cook us an amazing sub. We know how to sell you an insurance policy, but we don't know how to do what you do and how to connect us to the resources these people need to get the funding, to get the resources, to get the way, to get them moving again so they can help themselves. And that's where we need that connective piece. So I think the resources are huge. Like we said, we're willing to donate an office where we could have a caseworker for businesses sit here and people could come meet them and figure out, how do I take the next step forward? There's a lot of ground to cover, but if we take a little bit of ground every day, we'll pull our heads up and we will be blown away about what is out there and what we've created together.
Sandy, I'll put physical labor into the conversation for camps too, because I know there's still a lot of that, but what do you feel like that industry needs most right now?
Yeah, I think funding for both a for-profit business, again, they're just coming out of their SBA loans for COVID and all the COVID expenses, and now they're going to be looking at another SBA loan for damages because insurance wouldn't cover a lot of the flooding and damages that happened on property. I also think that as a nonprofit camp, a lot of camps are, they can only ask their donors for so much money, and so having those grants available to them as well is equally as important because those capital expenses are something they have a long projected timeline for, and now they have more capital expenses than they have ever had their entire, I think, existence at this point. I would also say, what do we need? Funding, to make sure our partners in our communities are taken care of as well. I think I alluded to it earlier that we are an organism. So if we're not up to par and our travel partners are not up to par, our restaurants aren't up to par, our main streets not up to par, we're not going to succeed. The camps have been a cornerstone of the economic economy since the beginning of North Carolina. You have camps here who have been here for over 200 years, and they don't work well unless everyone else in their community works well along with them. It's a partnership.
Excellent. Lisa, how about you? What does a company like Mast General Store need most right now?
We need community support for our local small businesses. They need to stay strong and survive. The destination shopping and tourism really counts on that. I'll just say really quickly, this is obviously a marathon. This should be the first of many conversations that we have. It's not going to heal itself in a year. It's going to be a continual need until we can get back to some normalcy. I appreciated riding with David today, picked up one of our Mountain Strong stickers. It's one of the efforts that we made as a company to try to do our part, but it's not going to put a dent in what is needed for all of our areas. We just really need to help pay attention and fix what has been broken.
Well said. Lisa, I'll start with you on just any closing thoughts, any last little bit of wisdom that you would like to impart upon this great group of folks.
The mountain community has certainly shown up, and people have come to help us, and it has been amazing to see truly how strong people are in helping their neighbor and putting others first in this time together, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak to what is happening in businesses in Western North Carolina and how we can really together make a difference and keep our communities as a destination. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy?
I also want to say thank you for having me here today. In closing, I'd probably like to share that for any of the policymakers that are here, if you haven't walked down the main street of Swannanoa or even in the Asheville area, take a look at that. There is debris, there are cars that are overturned, they're everywhere, and it's traumatic for not only an adult, but for all of the campers and the students that reside here. We want to make a comeback, and we know it's going to take some time, but we want you to know that we're in this for the long haul, but we do need help.
Meredith, in this former church, you gave us quite a sermon to start this off. We're going to let you bring it home, okay?
I do want to end again with gratitude and just grateful for this community. Kit, thank you for saying yes to having it here in Swannanoa. It's a big deal for us to feel seen as a community, and just looking forward to continuing to work with each one of you, and just so proud of who we are as a community. So thank you all. Thank you, David.
Can we have a round of applause for these tremendous leaders? Thank you. So we are going to begin to transition to our second panel. As we do that up here, I'm going to invite Kim Effler, the CEO of the McDowell County Chamber of Commerce, and Bob Williford, who has a birthday today, by the way. Bob Williford, the CEO of the Henderson County Chamber, to say a few words. Thank you. Turn it toward you.
Bob and I learned yesterday that we're the halftime show. There will be no singing, dancing, or wardrobe changes. Before I share my remarks with you all, I want to be sure that each of you receive a printout for each of our communities in the entrance of this building. We worked hard to create these for you. There is some economic data, some testimonials, so please take one. There should be one for everyone. So for those of you that I am meeting for the first time, I'm Kim Effler, President and CEO of the McDowell Chamber of Commerce. I represent McDowell County, Marion, and Old Fort. To each of you who invested your time with us today, thank you. I'm following everyone's lead. We're really glad that you're here. Your presence in this is a testament to our commitment to our region and the businesses that make it thrive. As the 2025 Western North Carolina Chamber Executive Chair, I have the privilege of working alongside an incredible group of leaders. Would my colleagues, the Chamber of Commerce leaders in this room, please stand and be recognized? These are the individuals who have been on the front lines fighting for 112 days. We are here today because we understand our mission to eliminate barriers to business success. But let me tell you, friends, Helene left massive barriers in her wake, barriers that cannot and will not be ignored. This storm didn't just impact a few towns or counties. It affected thousands of businesses and countless individuals who will never be the same again across Western North Carolina. And recovery knows no county lines. It doesn't stop at borders. It's a collective fight, one that demands collaboration, urgency, and sustained action. Recovery is a long game, one that may well last the entirety of our careers. And I fear that for many outside of Western North Carolina, this storm has already become yesterday's news. My parents live in West Virginia, and I'm always asking, Have you heard anything about Western North Carolina? Have you heard anything about our area? They're my fact checkers. It is up to us, those in this room, to ensure that this story and the people and businesses of Western North Carolina are not forgotten. Our panelists today have given us a glimpse into reality, but behind every single data point, every statistic, is a business owner with a gut-wrenching story of loss, resilience, and determination. These are not just numbers, these are people who have poured their lives into their businesses, into their communities, only to see them uprooted in an instant. And yet, they persevere. They are counting on us to do more than just to listen, but to act. To our guests, legislators, influencers, and stakeholders, we need you. We need you now. Not just today, but in the weeks, the months, and the years to come. Recovery is not a one-time thing. It is a continuous commitment. We deserve policies and programs that reduce barriers, funding that reaches the smallest of business, and a collective willingness to ensure that every entrepreneur in Western North Carolina has the chance to rebuild and thrive. As I close, let me reiterate, we will not stop fighting until every business is back on its feet. Helene may have left devastation, but she also left us with a charge to stand together, to demand action, and to build back stronger. Thank you.
All right. It is my birthday. And once you hit 60, you'll start using these. So I thought the battery fell out. I was asked to talk a little bit about regional cooperation, and it'll be very brief because I firmly believe I am preaching to the choir here. But regional cooperation to me is basically understanding the concept that we are all in this together. Our economies are tied together. And what happens in one of our communities impacts what happens in all of our communities. A success in Buncombe County benefits Henderson County, benefits Transylvania, benefits McDowell and all the counties surrounding what's happening in Buncombe County. A couple of examples. If there were an economic development project to come into Buncombe County and say create 300 good-paying manufacturing jobs, what would happen is most of those jobs would be taken by Buncombe County residents, but we know that the labor net or the labor pool expands far beyond Buncombe County borders, so you would have workers coming in from McDowell, they'd be coming in from Henderson, Transylvania, Madison, and other places. So a lot of those workers would be earning a paycheck, going back to their communities, purchasing groceries, going to restaurants, possibly going to the local car dealer. So all of the communities around would benefit from that. And we talked about the youth summer camps and the economic impact they have. When they have good years and they're full of campers, that economic impact stretches beyond just where those campers are. You know, those parents drop the preteens and the teens off, and they're going to go out and have some fun in the region and spend money in our communities. So when good things happen in one community, it spreads to other communities. Unfortunately, that's there are two edges to that. When something bad happens in a community, it also spreads to the surrounding communities. When there's a plant closure, you can bet that the community it's in will feel that impact, but the surrounding community will also feel that. When when COVID or something like that hits and the camps can't operate at full capacity, you know, it's just not that community, it's all the communities that feel that. And when you have a natural disaster hit one of our communities or all of our communities, we understand that all of us need to work together it behooves us all to recover as quickly as we can because it's in our self-interest to help our neighbors and help ourselves recover as well. So that is why it's important. Now the trick is, can we cooperate and can we work together? And there is some foundation for that. You heard Kim talk about the Western North Carolina Chamber Executives. We get together a couple of times a year, talk about common challenges, common opportunities, and ways that we can help one another. In the spring, we have a Western North Carolina Chambers Raleigh trip, which will be coming up fairly soon. If you haven't been, you should go. But we take about 60 people from all over the region down to Raleigh to advocate for our communities as well as our region. And this year, that trip takes on new importance. So we could have 100 people going this year. 2 years ago, we started the WNC Washington Fly-In, doing the same thing going up to D.C. We were encouraged by Congressman Edwards and his staff. I think Bronwyn is here. They make sure we don't get lost, we don't go to the wrong places while we're up there, and they help us set up meetings with the decision makers who can help with the things that we need in Western North Carolina. Again, we don't know when that trip will be this year, but that'll be a very important trip this year. And if you haven't been, you should join us and do that. And if you just like the fun stuff, next week, next Thursday, we're doing something over at Graham's Place at Advent Health, the new medical office facility there. You'll have chambers from Henderson County, the Asheville Area Chamber, the Brevard, Transylvania Chamber, who else? The Fletcher Area Business Association, the Foothills Chamber, all will be there to network and talk about how we can do more business amongst ourselves in the region. So it is very important, it is very effective, and we do work together, and now it's more important than ever for us to do that. So and just to recap, regional cooperation, good. Helene, bad. So, and I love the tagline, I say together we are stronger, but together we are more. So, thank you very much.
I told Bob, never tell a room full of chamber executives that there's a birthday in the room, especially if you happen to be one of them. Thank you all again for your attention during the first panel. This one's going to be as impactful as we talk more about the individuality of these communities that we all have grown to love so much here throughout Western North Carolina. And we've got three great ones represented here with panel number 2. We have Jeffrey Burrows, the president of the River Arts District Artists, a place that so many of us have visited when in the Asheville area. Michelle Bowman, general manager of the Stick Boy family of businesses up in the Boone area. And Karen Caruso, the founder and owner of Mind Your Business. We're going to have to talk about, yeah, I know. There's a lawyer in the room that can help me with copyright later. We'll figure that out. All right, so similar thing that we did with the first panel, we're going to let each of you just kind of explain a little bit about the geography, about the who, what, where of your business, and how things are today. And we'll start with you, Jeffrey.
Hello.
Hi.
It's so great to be here. I'm just so honored. I feel like this week in general, I'm the president of the River Arts District Artists, but I make jewelry. So I keep finding myself in these positions, and I'm like, who am I and what's happening? Am I supposed to be sitting in this chair? Are you sure you called the right person? And yet it keeps happening. So thank you again. The question was again,
the question. So we know that you're with the River Arts District and you make jewelry, but tell us a little bit more about what your current business condition is.
Yes. So as of today, what we're really kind of combating is I'll just touch on a few points because I think some of them will come back to. But one of the most incredible things that some of you may know about the River Arts District is there are over 700 artists, galleries, and collectives with just in the span of a mile. And if you haven't had a chance to go down there and take a look. You know, it's a similar thing in the earlier panel, you know, that's the apocalypse that we're used to. That's where we go every day, and we drive through it, or we drive over the bridge, and it's there, and yet I feel like every day we're a little more grateful. We've come so far. Our community activated, literally, you know, as artists do. We showed up as soon as the water started receding, and by that Saturday morning, we were taking the back roads, walking back behind the tracks, coming in and starting to recover and take out as much art as we could. And just to get a sense of it too, you forget about things, right? You wake up in the morning, you have no water, no cell service, no nothing. And so you're like, well, we got to start recovering. And then all of a sudden you're like, how do we clean the mud? There's no water. Or I'm now covered in mud. There's no way to clean this off. And so all of a sudden, you know, you're activating, but you're coming up when like facing all of these new challenges that you're in no way prepared for. But we were there. And as we do, we stepped in at that moment, and then we started just kind of corralling there. And we were leaving messages on cardboard boxes, like that we would tape to telephone poles and write down and share information. And we started meeting every Monday and Friday. And incredibly, that came out of that is Phil D'Angelo's studio was serving 150 meals every day out of their studio because they had a gas kitchen. So the sense of like our artist community coming together and getting through this kind of initial day-to-day emergency, and now we're kind of just now really starting to shift into like coming up with short and long-term plans. And even inside of that, the lower part of the River Arts District, which now we have nomenclature for. There's now a lower and upper RAD, which we never had before, because the lower part of the district is what's closest to the river. So the upper part of the district is just geographically a little higher. But even on the upper part of the district, just to give a magnitude of how much water was in our community, even in the upper part of the River Arts District, we had water that still came up 7 feet. And I do want to report very lovingly that in December we reopened our first devastated building. We've had hundreds and hundreds. Yes, we can clap. Yes. Because that took hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, countless hours, working 60 days back-to-back, non-stop. And then the city showing up for us, helping getting that debris out so we could have RadFest. There's been so much that we've been able to activate and achieve up to this moment. And now we feel paralyzed. We're in a point, and sorry, I feel, you know, I love my community so much. And I feel their weight. So it's not even just me standing here, it's the 700 artists of the River Arts District, and it's Western North Carolina artists, it's not. So I just want to make that clear. So in this moment, we feel paralyzed, but I know that we'll talk a little bit about some of that as we move through the panel.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Michelle, tell us a little bit about Stick Boy and where you're located and what your current reality is like.
Sure. Thanks for having us, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's Michelle Bowman. I'm one of the owners of the Stick Boy family of businesses, which includes 3 locations, including a production facility, and Hatchet Coffee, which has 2 locations. We have 160 to 170 employees, which doesn't feel small anymore. My title at work, some people call me Mom on the Go, if that tells you anything. About half of our staff are college students, and I think that makes us a little bit unique. These are students who experienced COVID during a very challenging and formative years of their life, and now they've got the next disaster, and not everybody has the option to go home. That's not always the best choice. So we were not conflicted, we were presented with the challenge of how do you take care of these college students while taking care of your staff who are full-time and rely on this business. Disasters are inequitable. There's no reason why I should be sitting here not able to share physical damage, because we really didn't have any compared to your story right here. So I think part of our story is, yes, we still had challenges, and here's how we approached them. I don't know that we'll be able to discuss the pictures, but just a quick touch on them. That Pay It Forward program was the result of one of our college students who bought all of the bread on the shelf one day and said, give it away. for whatever customer walks in the door. And so then we're like, this is valid. We need to be doing this every day. And so customers had an opportunity online or in the store to buy anything, put it on that shelf, and there's no shame in it. You walk by, you know your neighbor needs a loaf of bread, take it. Go ahead and gift it. We started with gift cards where if a customer came in and shared, I'm about to go feed the fire department, or we're getting a cleanup crew, the staff would give them a gift card and say, it's on us today. So we gave them that. We gave them that empowerment to be involved in the process and in the healing, and I think that's what's going to carry them through what would have otherwise been a really challenging time. The other picture I shared because we don't have the option to go virtual, and the customers were showing up whether we liked it or not, and we opened our doors and we invited it from day one. When the storm hit, we threw everything into the freezer on racks. Saturday morning, no power, no electricity at my house, or water or electricity at my house. I went to the bakery and brewed coffee. And then I was like, I'm surely not the only one that needs a cup of coffee right now. It's not the kind of thing you prepare for. So a few staff happened to be walking by. They came in. We pulled everything out of the freezer and just started giving it away. I still have images. I've never seen shock on a person's face like I did then. This picture right here, I had to go to Lowe's Hardware, and there's water all on the floor to get construction lights because in one of our buildings, only one panel worked. And it just so happened that panel could fuel the ovens and the mixers. So I had to buy construction lights. My husband sent me a text because he's giving away free coffee at one of the locations. I bought 4 of those for a building this space. We really only needed 1. So that's the running joke. We donated them to Habitat, but we had 2 bread bakers that came in. They did not have water or electricity either for a week. They came in every night. We fed them dinner every night. One night I had my husband go pick up 2 pizzas. He comes home after having dropped them off, and I said, where's our pizza for our family? We don't have power at this point. He goes, you told me I needed to give the pizzas to the bread bakers. So 2 bread bakers had 2 pizzas, and we had stale bread and some cheese. So that just kind of tells you the initial moments where we are now. We lost, we estimate, in the first 4 weeks, $350,000 in revenue, which I don't think touches, again, like the scale of some of the loss and hardship that others have had. We are going into the season where you're lucky to break even, and so I think we're hitting that time just right now where we're going to find out of the neighboring businesses who's going to be able to pull out of this, who needs the most help, and that's what we're interested in.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Karen, tell us a little bit about Mind Your Business and what your now looks like.
Hi. Our now looks like we have our office, which is a 7,000 square foot facility that was completely destroyed. We lost everything, name it, everything. We've been in business for going on 30 years. And you think all the little keepsakes and all the little things that you have that you strive to keep, and they're gone. They're just gone like that in an instant. And when Bob sent me the email initially asking me to come and share my story, I didn't want to. I was like, no, I pass. And it was my executive team that really sat me down and said, you know, you need to do this because we're unique in the sense that my company is a national, global background screening company. So I have clients all over the world. And the federal agencies and state agencies, we're not allowed to be out of business. We're not allowed. And because we're a woman-owned small business, our scrutiny is even that much more. So if we show any sign of weakness, that we're not going to be there to answer the phones or to prepare those reports, it's suicide. So we really, my team and myself, we've been suffering in silence. People will call and say, well, how you doing? We're fine. You know, we're there answering the phones. We pivoted. We have people all over the state of North Carolina taking calls to keep our business going. It's amazing. When the storm was coming, I'm a native North Carolinian from the East Coast. I heard the reports. We were in Cherokee at a big conference, and I heard the reports, and I had my daughters with me and my staff, and I said, we've got to go. This is serious. These are hurricane force winds coming up to us. We've got to go. And the conference leader said to us, well, you know, you might be penalized for leaving early. Okay, you can penalize me. I'm going home. And if we hadn't left at that moment, we would be stuck there. There were people at that conference that were stuck on the interstate for 2 days. Because as a business owner, a small business owner, what do? We put our business first. We put our family and ourselves last. But not that time. That time I was in reverence of the weather. We've got to go. So this is really like a coming out for me to even be admitting how devastated we were and are. And that was one of the questions that I saw on the questionnaire coming back. Are you worried about your corporate image? Absolutely. You know, we've lost everything. We saved our servers. We have phenomenal employees and an executive team that have really stepped up. But, you know, the mindset, the depression, the sadness, you know, I don't even want my employees to come to the office and see how devastated we are. It's a very select few that have come out to see it because you all know. You're in my shoes. It's just, how do you rebuild? What do you do? We're just on the heels of COVID for all intents and purposes, and yes, we did get funding for that, which I'm grateful for. But getting another loan, mortgaging, putting my house up as collateral, wow. That's a tough one. That's a tough one that I'm bootstrapping it. You know, I started this company myself at the kitchen table, naming it Mind Your Business. And I'm a fighter, and I'm a scrapper, and that's who I've always been. That's my next generation coming up. My daughters are running the company with me, and that's who we are. We're North Carolina strong, and we'll be there, but, you know, now the word's out. We were hurt pretty badly. But we're rebuilding. We're going to stay, Bob, at 500 Beverly Hanks. No matter what, we're staying. And we're grateful that we all have our health and our families are okay despite everything. And anything that I can say or help or contribute today to the regrowth and the rebuilding of our area, I'm dedicated to doing that. So that's who we are. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. So you all artfully touched on this in your own way, and I wonder if we can go a little bit deeper with this first question for you. People can drive past your business, and in the River Arts District, they'll see something. In front of Stick Boy, they'll see something. At your business, they'll see something. But the nuanced things that might not show up to people that drive by that are on your mind every day. Michelle, maybe if you can tell us that a little bit about Stick Boy, businesses that are open and operating, but I'm sure that's not necessarily as easy as it sounds at this point in time.
No. For anybody who's been in Boone, you can stay on the main roads and not see a fraction of what you see here. Granted, you go 2 minutes out, 2 miles out, and I promise you it's there. You'll see the parking lots full. Again, people are coming, but I think it's less about the product and more about the experience. Our staff have learned to meet people where they are. Prior to Helene, and I've said this all along, I treat our staff as my customer so that they can turn around and treat the true customer like a customer. So what am I going to do? It means I've got to go out of my way to greet them, to look out for their needs, to meet them where they're at. It's work, and there's a reason why mom is in the title, because it's about the equivalent of parenting, and not so much consequences, but giving people a framework in which to think about things so that they don't have to come to you for every situation, but how are we going to approach this? I spend a lot of my mental and emotional energy creating those frameworks. I'm no longer as accessible to the mass of the staff, but I've got a few key people, which then the pressure's on them to turn around and do the same, and that it's regardless of what's going on personally. Yes, I have put personal aside I get home after having made decisions all day, and my husband asks me what I want for dinner, and I'm like, I don't care. I just don't want to pick. Exactly. And so that's what you don't see, is the work that goes into that. But I think because of it, we have a stronger, more stable staff, and in turn, that is why the customers who are able to come do so.
Jeffrey, how about you? With the River Arts District, people see they've returned, but what do they not see yet?
What they don't see yet actually is that there's confusion around us being open. The entire upper part of the River Arts District is open. We had a soft launch to market it, and there's a lot of just kind of misinformation that we've seen, and that's why actually, like, I see Vic, it's so great, like, we've been working with Explore Asheville, and I think I saw Katie here from Arts AVL. You know, we've been working with our partners to try to help get that message out. But we, you know, for the upper part of the RAD, while there may not have been as much physical devastation, there is the financial loss. Like, I'm very blessed. I'm in the upper RAD. My building was not physically damaged. I'm fully insured, but of course, nothing was there. I can use myself as an example for that. But we missed our biggest season. You know, we're talking about, you know, the River Arts District and arts in Western North Carolina is a multi-billion-dollar, billion. We're talking about huge economic loss. Just like was stated earlier, Asheville's 80% down. We've lost in just our building of artists, we've lost half of our artists already. People cannot sustain. And what you can't see is that we're going to lose in Asheville. The River Arts District is our soul. It's our heartbeat. It's the place where people come to run along the Greenway, release and kind of connect with themselves. It's a mental health necessity. It's a way to connect. Art is what brings us together. You know, when you look historically, what do we have left to measure civilization by? Art and culture. We are so important to the foundation of being human. And to be able to have someone come into your space and you get to have a shared experience to, like, you're meeting somebody who is interpreting what's happening at a time when we're existing together. That's a soul exchange. And that's why we always like to say the Biltmore will definitely bring people to Asheville, but the RAD will bring them back. You know? Also, you should go to the Biltmore often. But, because they're wonderful. But you'll see things like this and the paralyzation. And what I mean by that is, you know, because we started right away, we probably weren't even allowed to, but, you know, we're artists, so we're rebellious in nature and you can't tell us what to do. So we started right away. We didn't ask, we just said sorry. And because of that, we're ahead of the game. We're stopped. We don't understand where the money is coming from. And I understand that this is being worked on, but we've been ready for a month. We need to start now. Like, we need to be building temporary structures down in the lower RAD because spring is in 6 weeks, and if we don't make something happen, we're gonna lose the River Arts District. And that's the truth. And it's so close, you all. We are holding on by bits of string. And I know for a lot of us, myself included, we haven't stopped since the flood. It is still September 27th for me. And I am still standing on that bridge, watching all of our dreams being washed away. And don't forget, this may be a cultural and business center, but people lost their homes. We've lost friends. This is so profound. And you can't see that because we come into work and we smile because we want to be positive. But I'm telling you, those 2 first weeks that we were open, I didn't want to be there. But I had to be because our rent was due. There was no moratorium. I didn't want to be there. He's just driving through the rubble every day. But we come with a smile because we want to be that. We want to remain hopeful and optimistic because that's the vision. And we hold on to that. I may have moved here 4 years ago from New York City, but I went to school at the University of North Carolina School for the Arts in Winston-Salem, and I'm telling you, when I came here to go to school, there was something about North Carolina, and I just so fell in love with it. And I always used to joke, I'm like, I'll probably be back in North Carolina one day. And here I am, and I'm so grateful. This is my home. The River Arts District is my home, and this is my community, and I'll be damned if I let something happen to it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Karen, can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that, by the nature of what you do, might not necessarily be as noticeable to the customers that you were talking about a little bit ago, or even to your employees at this point, about your current reality now?
That we're in the catch-22. We're that business that isn't going to get any funding, grants, unless we take out a loan with the SBA. So we're having to fund this ourselves. And so subsequently, here we are in January, and we just finished our mold mediation. We had to do the say the word for me. Thank you. 3 times, because I was so paranoid about, is it all gone? Is it all gone? My staff is coming back. I can't deal with, I don't want them to have to deal with this. So the expense, of course, the heartache and the human toll that you spoke of so eloquently, really catching me. It's going to be tough, and just being there for everyone, just looking at your small businesses next door. We don't sell a retail product. We're a service industry-based company, but we still rely on our local community, our camps, our hospitals, everyone to support each other. And we do background checks. We do drug testing. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy, but it's what everyone needs. So supporting your community and supporting us is what we'd like, and we give that in return willingly and joyfully.
Jeffrey, I want to come back to you for a quick follow-up on a nuance element to this for artists, and I'm sure many in the River Arts District. As we've talked today to a lot of businesses that have physical locations, and they have had long histories, and they're corporations, a lot of artists are the heart of our gig economy. And they might not necessarily have the I'll call it on paper foundation that makes it easy to get assistance to. How much have you helped your community navigate that, or does your community fully understand what is available based on 1099 status and things along those lines that may be more prevalent in your industry?
That's a good question, because it's a challenge we're facing right now, and we're trying to make more apparent so that some of our partners can continue to advocate for us as well. But it's another hard pill to swallow. We are real, true small businesses, not like the 250 employee less like denotion of a small business. We're solopreneurs, we're micro businesses, we have contract labor, we're real small businesses. And unfortunately, what we have found is there are very few things that we are eligible for. And that's devastating, because we are a high impact area. I know of some of the grants going around, and unfortunately, due to their eligibility requirements, we don't have one artist, gallery, or collective that is eligible for any of that funding. So not only are we paralyzed, we're not eligible for what's coming out. And that's why we really need specific help within the River Arts District and the arts community. Otherwise, it feels a little bit like we're being left behind. And again, we're micro businesses just coming out of COVID. I mean, I still know many artists that are still paying off their COVID SBA loan. We don't have the money. And we especially don't have it now, because think about it, right? Any business, you're coming into your busiest season of the year that is probably like the greatest income generational part, the income generator of your business, leading up to your slowest season. What do? You double your advertising, you double your production, whatever it is you're investing into. And you did that right before the world stopped. And now you're left with all of this, and if you just think about it from a business perspective, there's no cash. There's no cash. You can't even afford to take out an SBA loan because you still have to pay your mortgage. You still have to pay your car payment. And I know people that are paying mortgages and they don't even have a house on the land. It's not right. There's a morality to some of this. And I don't know because, again, I'm a jeweler. I make jewelry. But like, fundamentally, I can assess that there are things happening that are not okay. And I don't know how we fix it. But I am open to it. That's the thing, is like, we're ready, we are willing, we are open, we are here to do business, whatever that means. We're ready. We can build. We're carpenters, we're masoners, we're like literally the perfect people for the job. Literally. And I also just want to say one thing. There are so many people. I get emails, overwhelming emails every day. Everybody has an idea for the future of the River Arts District. Thank you? No. No. No, no. I don't need your opinion. You are not a member of our community. Thank you, no. Come to us. That's the biggest thing is, I can count on 3 fingers how many people we've seen in our local active political community that have shown up in our neighborhood. 3. Come to us, talk to us, come and see and experience what we're going through. It is unfathomable. And we're trying to remain hopeful and resilient through all of it because we don't have another option.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you for speaking on behalf of an industry that touches, again, tip to spine, every ounce of Western North Carolina. Every community has an anthem. They have that thing in the middle of town that people come to and they see because it was created by someone who had the passion for the place to make that the destination, the magnet for that place. So, can I just add one? Yes, please.
Sorry. I just want to add too, like, this is what artists do, right? It took 30 years, okay? 30 years of what was once just industrial wasteland buildings that artists started just operating out of. And it was built into this premier cultural heartbeat of our city that people from Charlotte, Raleigh, Atlanta, Knoxville, Memphis, all of our regional partners, people from New York and Florida, all over the country started coming and visiting us. It took 30 years to make that happen. And now we need help so that this doesn't die.
Well said, Jeffrey. Thank you very much for that. As we, again, speak to a room of folks that are influencing policy and influence decisions that come up, we've talked a lot about different tools that may be available, but one of the consistent questions that we've always heard, especially from our federal partners, is to help us identify what the barriers may be. What are people bumping up against at this point in time? Maybe that's local regulation. Maybe that's some nuance in the litany of pages that tell us how we need to do things now that just doesn't make sense or doesn't make operational sense. Karen, if you could kind of start us off with that. What are the barriers that you're seeing for progress for your business right now?
Well, I believe it was Ellen on the first panel that said connecting the dots. We're business people, have our nose to the grindstone all the time, trying to keep our businesses growing and going, and just being able to connect the dots without the nuances of mass paperwork. But again, I'm fortunate, kind of, sort of, you can say, in that I've been in the federal system as a contractor, a subcontractor, for over 15 years. So honestly, when I called the hotline for FEMA about a loan, oh, we have you right here, Ms. Caruso. How much would you like? How much would I like? Really? And then she tells me what the interest rate is, or that I have to mortgage my home, or, and it's like, no, thank you. I think I'm going to do this on my own. So it's just the availability. You think you have all the answers, you think you know everything, but there's roadblocks. And there is no right or wrong answer. It's just help us connect the dots. I mean, they're changing policy every single day. Am I in a flood zone now? Am I not in a flood zone now? Can I rebuild? Can I not rebuild? It's so up in the air. There is no yes and no, right or wrong. It's like, what do I do now? Help me. Just connect the dots. That's how I feel anyway.
Michelle, how about you? What barriers do you see for your businesses right now, and what suggestions would you make for this group?
So we have our retail locations, which are kind of in the heart of Boone and accessible, but we also have a whole wholesale operation. And what that does is ties us to different businesses in the community. So when they struggle, we struggle. Lansing, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with out there. They are a remarkable story of boots on the ground. Resources aren't available, so we're going to do everything we can. And I think what I'm hearing also is we are all doing everything we can. We just need a lot of bit more. And so they're a great example of they did the work and got some help. We're trying to figure out what's our role. And through COVID, we were like, okay, if we're a toolbox, if there is a toolbox, are we a hammer? Are we a screwdriver? Are we pretending to be a pair of pliers? We make bread, and bread is a staple, and people need it. And there is major food insecurity in Western North Carolina. Okay, that's what we're going to lean into. Specifically with Lansing, when they got hit the hardest, their general store and coffee shop had to be stripped down to the studs. So our coffee shop in West Jefferson took their baristas on and just temporarily hired them. Did we need them? No. But on a level we did, because they were feeling everything in the moment, and they needed to be the ones to meet the customers where they were at, because they could nod their head and say, I hear you, I understand you. As far as Stick Boy, Hatchet Coffee, and Boonshine Brewing, we donated the first order for their reopening. So they stocked their fridges and their coolers and everything, and we're like, we see you, and this is how we can help. Sure, we could have written a check, but I think where you see businesses coming together is super important. I've always approached problems from different angles of it's not just one solution. So I don't know, like I'm hearing one thing here and another thing here, and I'm thinking, yes, we need it all. It's not black and white. We just have to have accessibility and resources for when that person says, here's what I need.
Jeffrey, what barriers are out there right now that this group could benefit from knowing about?
We need financial support. I think that's pretty obvious. And we need some clarification. And I think that will help with the paralysis of, what are the final floodplain laws? Can we build temporary structures? There's all this talk of how you build back, right? So we want to build back better, more sustainable. That takes a longer period of time. So short term, can we build temporary structures? We've got 6 weeks till spring. What's that permit process going to look like? Is that going to take us all spring and all summer? And then we have to build the temporary structures. Who pays for those temporary structures? We don't have any money. So how do we move forward from this place that we're in now? I think one of the things that we're really trying to work hard to try to, one thing we're doing in the RAD right now, we just created URAD, which is all of the partners in the River Arts District. It's building developers, building owners, it's RADA, it's RADBA, which is the business association. And so now we have all of the leadership meeting together to come up with a vision for the future of the River Arts District. So that way we have an idea that we can present to the community and then the city at large and get advice on it. But we know what the city needs, we know what we want. We want to work with someone that can help us make this happen. But we have the dreams and the vision. We need money and we need clarity.
That's all. Just money and clarity. You guys have that right? Right. So as we wrap our discussion with this panel, I'm going to give you a final question to answer for this room, again, of people that are in position to help make decisions and in position to help influence those that make decisions. What is it that you would like most to be known about your business at this point, and what you feel like can resonate most as the next round of decisions are made? And Jeffrey, we'll start with you on that one.
Most important thing is we're open. We're open, we're open, we're open. Come and visit us, bring hugs, bring your purse, bring your wallet. I think that's, because people ask me all the time, what can I do? I'm like, well, if you really want to support an artist or the River Arts District, there's a couple things you can do. You can come and shop directly and meet an artist and buy from a living, breathing artist. There's Rata Foundation, which all the money that we raise through that. And as of today, it's a similar thing. We're close to $1 million, but when you go through the district, that's a drop in an ocean. And most of that we're using to allocate for any kind of just emergency funds because we're not eligible for any grants. So please come, we're open. I want to make it simple. That's what I would like to leave with. And also just so grateful to be here. I have so much love for this community and all of Western North Carolina. And thank you for everyone contributing and being here. And please call us.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Michelle, what's your parting thought for the decision makers in the room?
Parting thought is we've heard COVID mentioned multiple times, and Helene has a lot of parallels to COVID. It gave us a playbook. I knew how to respond quickly, rapidly. I knew what the priorities were. I knew where we should and shouldn't be trying to help. COVID also brought people to Western North Carolina because they weren't flying anymore and we're accessible and you can come, it's a destination. The biggest distinction is that Helene is keeping people from Western North Carolina, and so what was the strength, the one good thing that helped us is actually now the heart of the challenge. And so we need to get these spaces back to where they were. That starts with roads and infrastructure. We can't be worried the next time it snows that some of these temporary solutions aren't going to keep. We need to be able to drive straight home. We need tourists to be able to come up and know with certainty that they can access that Airbnb. We need camps as far as just rivers, trails, forests to be clear and safe for people to come up. We need the tourism, and it's odd because in the height of the first few days, David was my phone-a-friend. So I was at the bakery, we're giving free product away outside. One of the other owner's managers gets a text through to me. She's had to hike on top of a mountain because her neighborhood is destroyed. And she says, we can't get the resources here to fix the roads because everybody's being a tourist right now. And so I called David. He was my one person. I was like, we need to pause. We need to recover first, and then we can invite the people back. And we do want the tourism to come back. We want the locals to be able to stay. We want them to not have to relocate. But we have to create not just the one successful business, but the community of businesses so that the tourists, and let's be real, any local is just a really smart tourist who's decided to stay because we get the value. So we need it to be great for everyone, and it's going to be an influx of resources, and you can't let off the gas because here we are 3 months later. No, we need it now more than ever.
Thank you, Michelle. Karen, what's your final thought for this crowd here today?
It's not a one-size-fits-all. We're all different, we're all unique, we all have different needs. But I think the creativity of what we're all trying to accomplish here is getting back to work, getting our businesses reopened. And I think there's a collective mindset that we can come up with alternative ways to do that. I've been involved in mentor-protege opportunities in my business career, and I think, wow, what a novel idea if we took a small business here and had them be mentored by a larger corporation outside of the state of North Carolina. So you're not necessarily asking for money, please give me money, because that's really what we're asking, but we're willing to work for it. We're willing to give back. It's not just we want a handout. So I think thinking creatively to our decision makers, it's necessary at this point because now we have California and what's coming next, and everyone is in my opinion, I know, donation fatigue. It's a real thing. So give us an opportunity to show who we are and what we can do. And I think that's a good way to go. I'm on the panel if there's anyone wants to start. I'll be the first to volunteer.
Real quick.
Just one last thing. And speaking to small businesses in broadly, I think throughout Asheville and Western North Carolina, that I think the reason that we can have this many small businesses in our region, which I would love to know the statistics on that, because it's not common to have this many small businesses. I mean, even when in the RAD, that's 700 alone. But the reason that's possible is because of tourism. Our economy cannot survive on our wonderful locals alone. It's too much to put pressure on them. So another reason we have to reopen is because we need the tourists to come back. That's why I just want to put that in context.
Yeah. How about a round of applause for this panel here? As we close here and get ready to turn it back over to Kit, one thing I would also like to say, especially to our state representatives that have things like Visit NC, the Small Business Center Network, the SBTDC, things that you're used to funding already. Those things can be among the very tools that are helpful in a lot of the conversations that we've heard today. So thank you very much for your time. Kit Cramer, thank you very much for putting all this together. We'll turn it back over to you.
Please join me in thanking all of our panelists. They were great. We appreciate them being vulnerable enough to share their stories. I want to leave you with 3 things. Well, actually 4 things. Number 1, if you didn't get the flyers, each area, Karen is right, there is no one size fits all. We've each got slightly different situations. Please get those flyers. Look at them, because there are suggestions about what the specific needs are for each of our geographic areas, as well as some connections to business stories and data that we hope will be useful in telling this story. So the 3 remaining things. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you if you've been in a position to provide support up to this point. We really appreciate the collective effort, and we thank all of you for joining us. We thank our sponsors. We thank David for giving of his soon-to-be fought-over name of his podcast, to give us this opportunity to share the stories. Second thing, we're going to ask you to tell the story, and each of you are in the capacity to tell the story in your own way. We need your advocacy. We need foot soldiers to go with us to Raleigh, to go with us to Washington collectively. We're going to be sharing those opportunities with you, and we promise the chambers will help make it easy for you to communicate. We'll give you key talking points. We'll give you all the information you need. And similarly, our strategic partners who have their own industry verticals, who have their own geographic group that they can reach, we can all help one another in carrying our messages. So we would ask for your help in doing that. Third thing, especially this will come as a huge surprise to everyone, that I'm going to ask for more investment in Western North Carolina on the whole. The needs are huge, whether it's infrastructure investment or additional services that provide the kind of casework, the individual work with business owners who are now making decisions and need a better understanding of how we can move forward. Or the flexibility to continue being creative and doing what some of these businesses do best. We're going to be asking for flexibility especially from our local elected officials, because we know the enemy of business is uncertainty and unpredictability. We need that information, right, Jeffrey? We need to know what's going to be allowed, and in the absence of knowing, give flexibility and allow businesses to do what they do best, because they will find a way. Don't restrain them too much. So we're going to ask for your support. The small business community in Western North Carolina is the backbone of the economy and is the key to our all coming back strong. So we need to support that community. I thank you for being with us. Thanks so much to all our sponsors and everyone who has helped make today possible. Please go forth and be foot soldiers for us. Thanks so much.